Good afternoon, and it's really a pleasure to be here at TEDx Caledonian, and thank you very much for having me. So my talk is going to be about cross-sectoral expertise, and I'm looking forward also to hearing your reactions afterwards. So growing up, I played multiple sports at the same time, and switching between them made me better at all of them. Later, while studying multiple disciplines at the same time, cross-feeding ideas and principles made my thinking more holistic. And while working on impactful global reports, connecting the dots from different fields created the ripple effects that influence policymakers and students alike. Now, to me, that is one kind of resonance. Another type of resonance is when an idea vibrates inside you long after the moment has passed. It shapes how you feel, how you think, and also how you act. And that is the type of resonance you can also achieve with work in one field, but also across sectors. So resonance is also about staying power. But here's the paradox of our time. Our problems don't live in silos, but too often our solutions and the way we look for solutions still do. We still think in a one-dimensional way. Look, for example, at education. Most of the time, disciplines are taught in boxes. Science here, literature there, economics in another corner. Rarely do we connect the study of two subjects. Or look at work. Companies also still divide into departments: finance, marketing, technology, human resources, and rarely do they speak the same language. Which of course makes sense in some ways, but when it then comes to strategy, it all of a sudden needs to be encompassing. Or also look at how governments work. Ministries and agencies often operate in parallel, each pursuing their own agenda. However, when then the governments go on and implement policies, they usually cut across multiple areas. And so where are we when global crises hit? What happens? The discussions too often stay confined to these silos, each group searching for answers in isolation. But the crises themselves don't respect these boundaries. Climate change effects in the Himalayas can have an impact on rice prices in Europe. A data breach in Silicon Valley can have an impact on the job opportunities here in Pathankot. Or the emotional state of youth in one region can ripple across social media into other corners of the country. And then, of course, climate change itself doesn't only stop at the environment. It touches economics, politics, society. Or a pandemic like we've all just recently witnessed. It doesn't stop at health. It ripples into education, jobs, missed opportunities, and also inequality. And then artificial intelligence, the big buzzword of our time. It's not only about technology. It resonates also into ethics, governance, law, and also, as we've seen recently, into geopolitics. And so yes, in my opinion, this is the world that we live in. We're deeply interconnected. And that's why we need people who can cross the boundaries, people who can connect the dots, and people who can create resonance across sectors. And to me, these are the cross-sectoral experts, those who connect. They have gained experiences in more than one field, have seen issues from different angles, and implemented policies by bridging gaps between sectors. So let me bring this down from a global to a personal level. And most importantly, having experienced ripple effects of my work on different levels myself, I believe that everybody's input, regardless of the sector and the level, already does create resonance in that specific sector. And if it is then picked up by people outside your sector, voila, it resonates across boundaries. And by looking at issues from a multidimensional angle, the solutions we are looking for will be more adaptable to the multitude of challenges that we're facing. So in order to make this idea a little bit clearer, let me propose a bridge between resonance and cross-sectoral work. First, there is the immediate resonance of your work. Having worked in public relations in my early career, which meant I had to use my knowledge about multiple sectors in order to respond to a multitude of possible issues, and at the same time, I would get immediate feedback about my words. Sometimes it was curiosity, sometimes I could see the emotions, and sometimes I was met with disagreement. But that is okay, because I could feel the resonance instantly. But have you ever wondered if your input travels further? Or if an achievement you've realized, be it in sports, in academia, in music, or by implementing policies, does that achievement go beyond the moment? Think of a project that you worked on 5 or 10 years ago. Is it still around? Have other people built on it and taken it further? Has it maybe even crossed into another discipline? So having been on the implementation side of things from a governmental point of view myself, the cross-sectoral approach that we took to building our platforms allowed them to cross-feed into their work streams, and those platforms are still around 10 years later. So to me, that is long-term resonance, an idea that continues to speak in one or more or multiple fields, but you have already moved on to your next challenges. And then, as a third component, to me, there is systemic resonance. When an idea's influence is not just to individuals, but about entire systems. So long-term resonance is about time. Systemic resonance, to me, is about scale. It's when an idea spreads across institutions and shapes the actual structures of decision-making. So sometimes such great ideas come from the generational figures like Gandhi or Mandela, whose ideas indeed reshaped entire societies and changed the course of history. But no need to feel intimidated here, because such a systemic idea can also come from you. If it is then spread through the good channels, be it online, through reports, or other means, it can also become part of the way how systems will change. Now, having gained these experiences in numerous fields, they allow me to connect the dots where others struggle to see connections. And this approach came in very handy when I was managing and writing, together with some brilliant colleagues, one of the most impactful global risk reports. I learned that every word that you carefully draft or a concept you develop can indeed have a ripple effect. So connecting the links between risks spanning across multiple fields and ensuring that these consequences were discussed in a way that the readers could see the holistic view, and this allowed them to draw the necessary conclusions for their own work. Additionally, while we were integrating other experts' visions and made sure that they were integrated in a coherent way, this allowed the policymakers to use this information when they were producing reports. And later on, I learned that actually governments indeed used our report when they were coming up with their internal decision-making. So, this showed me how much needed actually this cross-cutting work was needed when it came to writing reports. And to me, this means when policymakers, business leaders, civil society groups, or students around the world refer to your work when making decisions, you are really in the midst of shaping local and global discussions at the same time. And that is systemic resonance. So, resonance can happen in one field or across sectors. But when it does cross boundaries in minds, in cultures, in societies, and captures the right audience, it can have considerable impact. And actually, so my question for you is, how do we actually build more of it in today's world? To answer that, think of the world as a network. Governments are like the powerful nodes. They set the rules of connection and the standards. Businesses are the hubs. They drive with energy and flow. Civil society are the communities, the clusters of people that make the network come alive. And then we have science and academia. They provide the data points. They are precise and reliable, but too often they're scattered. So if you look at this network and you see a single node on its own, it is silent. It only has a limited amount of reach. But when these nodes are connected, when we connect all of these four, the network comes alive. It transmits information, sparks innovation, and amplifies ideas across the world. And this is exactly where the cross-sectoral experts or the connectors come in. They act like routers in the network. They connect the signals, and they make sure the message flows to the right place. But here is one thing. These connectors are not just about governments or companies or institutions. Networks are built by people, which means that all of you are part of this story too. And what does this mean for you, and also especially the young and next generation? Let me put it this way. Often we are told to specialize, master one extraordinary skill, and I agree that hyper-specialization is much needed in certain fields, engineering, medicine, pure science. But that is not the whole story. Eventually, in my opinion, we shouldn't worry too much about what we study in the first place. Choose the field that you're best at, that you have the most passion for, and also where you, of course, see certain opportunities. And then expand your horizon by bridging to other sectors, be that during your studies or later at work. And you can always change careers later on, as I've learned during discussions with my dear colleagues. Because to me, the future won't only belong to the specialists. It will also belong to the connectors, to people who dare to cross boundaries, people who translate between fields so that those fields actually understand each other, and people who then create resonance across industry. So, what worlds could you bring together? What are the conversations and ideas that you could spark that go beyond your own circle? Because every time you bring one world into another, when you connect engineering with philosophy, economics with storytelling, or technology with law, you expand your echo chamber. And in today's world, I believe that every time you go beyond the echo chamber, your idea travels much further. And one important point in all of this is, of course, what role does artificial intelligence play? Yes, AI can connect the data points faster and help us solve problems that we've not thought about until now, and that is a huge step forward. However, only humans connect meaning, and only humans connect values, and humans connect vision. And that's why the role of people who go beyond their core field of expertise will only grow. And this is basically the call for action regarding to AI. If we are able to harness it in a cross-sectoral way, it will benefit society as a whole. And so those thinking and acting across sectors will equally benefit all of us. They make sure a solution in one field doesn't cause problems in another. They are the ones who connect climate science to economics, technology to ethics, and education to opportunity. They are the ones who turn the scattered efforts into lasting change. So in conclusion, and I'm leaving you with this, the future won't be shaped by the loudest or the most bullying voice, but by the ones that resonate across worlds. Thank you very much.